Okay, so I didn't get any footage of like the bike in its location and then moving it and whatnot. It's dark, it's rainy, we're in a unknown spot, and we just had to kind of get in and get out. It was just like, it was kind of a rush thing. There was a lot of people who were gonna gladly buy this thing if we didn't, so through teamwork and mostly luck, but also teamwork, we ended up with another CB750. So whether this is going to be my bike or Seth's bike, I don't know, probably Seth's, because we have been on the hunt for either a CB450 T or 500T or a CB750 that kind of fit the bill. So I'm gonna wheel this thing out if I can without hitting the Porsche back there, and we'll kind of get a once over on this thing. It was just a real quick, like, get the story as fast as I can. No title, that kind of thing, but this is gonna be a great bike to actually get running and just daily. This is, I'm telling you, this is gonna be a great bike for it. So I'm gonna get it out of here, like I said, and I'll give you the story and I'll give you the once over. This is actually the second bike haul today, so it's a good day. We don't hit the Porsche. Okay, now we are on the Porsche. All right. It's good that the tires were actually low. That worked in my favor. Okay. Excited. Okay, you guys are going to be inspecting this thing in real time with me. I just saw it in the shed real quick, and that was it. So, to start off, the basic details, this is a 1972 CB750, and as you can see, there are some modifications, there are some deviations from stock. So it has a 4-in-1 exhaust. The front fender, from what I can tell, is very trimmed, so they were going for some kind of performance deal here. Now, valve cover is I don't know if that's polished. I don't think it's chrome plated. It could just be actually probably standard cast. So either with the black paint here, they masked it off really well, or the engine has been out at some point to do something on. Some of the screws, this one's backed out. Some of the screws are a little bit worse for wear. But it is a 72, it does have the correct style petcock on it. The carburetors are not seized at all. The engine is not seized. Apparently it was, the story was that it sat in a field after the original owner bought it. He didn't like it or something, and so it was seized up at some point. The guy I bought it from apparently did some marvels and ATF and just soaked the cylinders, got it going, or at least got it unseized. Oh shit. That didn't feel good. Anyway, it rolls over. It just moved then, but I'm rushing right now. So we do have the stock 18-inch wheel, which is nice. Stock rear fender. These are the earlier turn signals to confirm that's a correct 72 piece. The tank, although it's been painted, the paint looks really good. Same thing with the side covers. So unfortunately the top triple is not correct. The standard top triple should kind of branch in between the gauges, and apparently those are really hard to find. So that is an unfortunate part, but you know what, this thing is still, reasonably all together. You guys are wondering. Fork boots, holy crap. They're not bad. Front master is seized. That's okay. Oh, and then this might be easier if I get it up on the center stand. And then it does have a crack. I wouldn't call that a crack. I would say a full-on break in the stator cover. So, know, that does suck, but you know what, we can find that piece and it will be okay. But other than that, let's see. Got a little duct tape over, gooey. I don't know if that's it. I don't know if that's an aftermarket ignition or not. We got one key with the bike and it was broke off in there. But I mean, I'm looking at it right now along with you guys, and it's looking good. It's looking real good, except for the fact that I just accidentally closed this. It was open. Inside of the tank, you're not gonna be able to see much of this. There is a little bit of corrosion, but nothing some electrolysis won't save. So we're missing a little glass right there. That's okay. All in all, this thing is a very solid bike. This is going to make for a fantastic daily rider. I mean, seriously, you don't have to do hardly anything to it out of the ordinary. So rebuild the brakes, rebuild the master, you know, go through the electrical a little bit, mount the ignition switch, air filter, rebuild the carbs, which it honestly may not even need it. He said he went through them. I don't know if we'll believe that, you know, to what extent. They could always probably be done better. But the chain, I mean, shit, it's an O-ring chain. Yeah. Got a newer O-ring chain on it. Even came with a lock. So, super happy with this thing. I am going to go ahead and pull the covers off of this thing. We'll get an inspection in just a minute, like we'll go a little bit further with it. Ooh, nice and soft. It's all factory. I don't know if they made a black CB750 in '72. I don't think they did. The paint on here it's not bad. There's a crack right here. I mean, it's had repairs done. That's okay. So we've got a slightly newer version of a turn signal flasher. There's nothing in here that looks questionable. I think I've got my big stack of keys back at the house right now. I wish I could pop that open. Dang it. There's no battery in it, but man, it's a damn good bike. Damn good bike. Oh gosh, sorry. Sorry everybody. So yeah, we are going to pick this story up whenever we figure out what the next part of the story is. I was actually planning on wheeling up my CB750 chopper onto the lift today, and then I quickly just jumped on this one real quick. So anyway, the bike has been obtained. It is in safe storage, and the story can only improve from here. So I'm not going to neglect any other projects. I do not think that I am going to be the one to get this thing going, so I think it's going to be a fun experiment for Seth. But anyway, I'm going to get my chopper back on the lift and we'll get started on that thing. So we're gonna have a couple CB750 revivals here, and that's gonna be cool. All right, so with the CB750, we have decided it is going to be Seth's bike. So I'm gonna let him kind of take over the video from here, and he is gonna shoot all of the clips on all the work he's doing on this bike. It's gonna be really cool. So yeah, let's try something different. I figure maybe you guys get a little bit bored with me sometimes, and we're gonna let Seth take it from here. So enjoy these next clips.
So today I'm going to try and tackle the elusive 750 that's been mentioned a couple times. This beauty right here. I would say the plan is we're going to do some preliminary checks, make sure everything is good to go, ready to crank it over. Don't want to cause any damage if we can avoid it. So we're going to do a few checks, lube some stuff up, and see if we can get this thing to pop off, hopefully, here before too long. All right, there she is. Got her all loaded up onto the stand. Now, gonna start in and see what we're working with. All right, so upon initial inspection, there is apparently 2 spark plugs missing in the middle. So someone's already come here and started the work for us, apparently, which is a bit unfortunate. And this spark plug is finger tight, so that's fun. It doesn't even look like it's hardly been run, actually, but gonna throw some lubricant down the cylinders, and hopefully there's not a bunch of rust or contamination in there. Considering the fact that it sat for a good while, I wouldn't be surprised if there was, but we'll see where we get with this. So I got the cylinders nice and oiled up and started gently rocking it back and forth, making sure everything was playing along nicely, which thankfully it is. Got the carburetors off. They look a little crunchy, but honestly they're not too bad. So I'm gonna get these cleaned up, throw them in the ultrasonic cleaner, put them back together and see what we got to work with.
So this is our preliminary soak of these carburetors. Run it for 10 minutes and this should be a little bit easier to disassemble. All right, so you just started taking these things apart, and the guy said, like many, we were doing a tune-up on these things, but that is not correct. This one is not as good as it could be. Not much slack in there. So with this bracket within was bent up. And we'll take it apart, but it should be level like that, keeping the shaft pretty tight, but that makes slack in there, so that's obviously gonna make a running issue. Makes it nice and easy to disassemble. Let's see how bad these are bent. I would imagine you would never get it in sync at that point. Yeah, that shouldn't fall out. Yeah, it's a bit of a difference. That's what it should be. So they probably just didn't know how to disassemble them. The needle's dirty, but we'll clean it up. So, yeah, the stuff you'll find.
So in the process of disassembling these, I was taking out the air mixture screw, and one of the springs was missing. So that's why you should always take your carburetor apart fully, make sure all the components are intact. There's also an O-ring and a small washer in place as well that needs to be removed. It's easy to miss those. Got the points off. As you can see, they're pretty corroded, so I'm going to clean them up, set the gap, and while I'm in here I'll clean this area out and clean up the advance weights as well. I already took the springs off, so they were like that. But we'll get this freshened up and back together. That is the advance weights, nice and cleaned up and working a heck of a lot better than they were. But I was just getting in the process of putting these guys back together, and I noticed the shaft was bent that went up to the linkage, so I straightened it out. But then I noticed the cylinder wouldn't go into the bore. Well, at least not without a lot of resistance. And there's a bit of transfer there, as you can see from it. So, got to looking, and I guess someone had tried taking this apart at some point in the past, but did it incorrectly. And that's how they bent it down and then wallered out the side of the cylinder here. But I got it straightened out. Now, works great. Thanks to my lovely wife Sabrina's efforts, the engine is clean enough to eat off of. It's looking way better. Good job. And the carburetors are about 90% done. I just got to button up a few things and finish putting them together. We'll be good to go. All right, so now what I'm going to be doing is working through the electrical system. I have come across so far is some of these connection blocks had a lot of corrosion in them. That one I've already cleaned, so it looks pretty good, but yeah, you can see in there, that right there is going to cause a lot of additional resistance to the system, which could lead to potential failures down the road. So what I'm going to do is some preventative maintenance. Just go ahead and unpin all these, clean them up with some electrical contact cleaner and a brass brush, and get these things looking new again.
All right, so all the wiring, I have redone the solder connections and put heat shrink over the repairs, so that is much better than it was. And I have cleaned up and unpinned all these connections, made sure they were nice and clean. Now I'm going to put dielectric grease in place and button all this up, and the majority of the electrics should be addressed now. Okay, updates. So all I've really done up to this point now is I have cleaned the points, got them looking real nice and clean. Clean them up, some electrical contact cleaner as well, and polished up the surfaces a little bit. You want to make sure there's not any major pitting or damage or uneven wear to the points as you're servicing them. As you can see, these are in pretty good shape. There's some mild pitting on this set, but not enough to cause issues, I don't think. So I got the gaps set already. We'll do a dynamic setting once I get the carburetors back on and this thing fired up, hopefully. Now I just got to start the process of softening these boots up, getting the rack installed, and the airbox situated. All right, getting pretty darn close to starting this thing. I got the carburetors all situated, everything's hooked up and working quite well, if I do say so myself. Airbox is installed. That sucked, but with a little heat and lubrication, got there eventually. So next, I think, is to fill this thing up with oil, maybe try and address this damaged stator cover, and see if she pops off.
All right, so all the work has been done to this thing. I'm gonna let Seth kind of take you through some of the finer details of some items that you found, some different challenges, and your consensus of the bike from here.
All right, well, there's been a handful of things that we've had to address on this thing. Really nothing too crazy, just pretty generic things that come up in the process of bringing a bike that's been sitting for a long time back to life. Really, one of the more glaringly obvious things was obviously the busted stator cover that we came across when we first bought the bike. Don't really know any
information on when or how or why that happened, but we got it sorted out, got a new one sourced, the stator swapped over, got a gasket cut out and made for it. Pretty proud of that.
Oh yeah, he did. He actually cut out a gasket because it's one of the few things we didn't have. We just didn't feel like ordering one. So yeah, hand cut a gasket for that. That was pretty cool. Worked out great.
Yeah, I was quite proud of that. Of course, the carburetors, if they've been sitting for any period of time, they're going to need to be gone through. And this bike was no exception. They weren't too terrible, as you'd probably see from the footage, but we did take the time to ultrasonically clean them, freshened them up with some fresh gaskets and seals, and really that's all we had to do to them. No major repairs had to be taking place in that regard.
Yeah, I don't think they were in like terrible shape. I mean, they worked fluidly as we got the bike, but they were rebuilt previously by who knows what their skill level was with it. So at least going through them, we know that they're done to the right level at this point.
Oh yeah, yeah, pretty happy with how those came out. Beyond that, there was a few electrical things that had to be sorted out on this thing. I know up here there was some previous repair work that had been done to it. They were actually soldered beforehand. So all I really did was I resoldered them, put some heat shrink on them, made some more permanent and better looking repairs.
A little bit more weatherproof.
Yeah. Did not have a key, of course, so that was a fun process, was getting this seat unlatched.
Did we actually find a key for this?
No, we did not.
Okay, so we'll pull the number off this and we'll try to just source a key online, or there's some online resources for that. That should be simple. We'll just remember not to close the seat too hard, you know.
That would suck, because I spent about an hour trying to get those nuts off of there, but it can be done.
Yeah.
Not
so how about this? One thing we haven't talked about. Underneath the package cover there, or the owner's manual cover, what did you find?
Yeah, right in here, frankly, I didn't even realize that existed until we had the bike for a few weeks. We did find the paperwork to the last dude that had registered this bike. There was some insurance work and I think the registration actually.
Yeah.
So we were able to take that, hit him up on Facebook, and the dude was really nice and more than happy to help us out getting some paperwork and some history on this bike. He even sent some pictures of it, how it looked when he had it and the stuff he'd done to it, which is a pretty cool story. But we'll hopefully be getting the title and everything we need to get this thing registered and legal here pretty soon, actually.
Yeah, and you said he was like out of the country till like the 15th or something?
Yeah, so
we need to hit him back up.
Frankly, here in the next day or two.
Yeah. So that was a cool thing, and it was I mentioned whenever I picked the bike up, it was kind of a wonky story on how this bike came to be. Just in general, I never even mentioned how this deal happened. It was pretty incredible. So I was actually at his parents' house picking up that Goldwing that I had shown, and this was, I don't know, noon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that, and I had seen this listing for the CB750, and this is very local to where the shop is. So this bike was like 4 miles away. So of course, I'm messaging the guy, I'm messaging, and I'm getting nothing. The guy's not reading my responses. He's not, there's like nothing. There's just no communication. I'm losing my mind here because I wanted this bike, okay? And so finally, I mean, it was later in the day. It had to have been 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock probably. I asked Seth here, I'm like, hey, make sure my phone's not broken. Send this guy a message and just see if he responds. And sure enough, Seth sent him a message, and in that moment, that guy turned his phone on. He had made this post and turned his phone off. So he turned his phone on. All of those messages, there probably was 100 of them. I had to guess. Sure. At the way this bike was priced, he was the last person to message, but it showed up on the top of this guy's list as the first. So he responded to you right away, and then, you know, he put him in contact with me, blah, blah, blah. I was there within 20 minutes to go get this thing. It was a miracle that we got this thing. And yeah, it was kind of a sketchy thing, no title, but you know what? It's all going to work out. And it's going to be a great bike. So yeah, pretty incredible we got this bike in general. Any other like items on the bike that kind of stood out? to you?
Well, funnily enough, this ignition switch, of course the bike didn't have a key, as a lot of our projects tend to do, unfortunately. But this ignition was actually sourced from your bike, which there's a whole other thing that goes along with that.
Yeah. So, if you guys saw the recent episode where I did the electrical on the chopper here, you know that I opened up the headlight bucket and I found this sock, and in the sock I had a key, so that meant that I didn't have to use the ignition switch I bought for that bike, so worked out great. Right next door we had this thing, so that worked out well. You needed a key and an ignition switch, and I had one. So we're starting to amass some CB750 parts here, and yeah, how many we got in the shop right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got
all of them?
Six, yeah. And then we got there's a CB750 frame up there. So yeah. Now that kind of brings me to the end of this. Both of these bikes are at the exact same point. We have tested them electrically. They both have spark. They both have fresh fuel systems, and they're both, I think, just ready to go. So who's is going to start first? How many kicks?
Oof. I'm going to call 3 kicks on mine, 4 kicks on yours.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So we might need to put a little wager on this one.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have to talk about that on the first start video, but that should be the next video you see. This week, the weather might shape up enough to where we can wheel these things outside and actually get a first start going, but we should be seeing one soon enough. I know I can't wait. And then after that, we're actually going to work on the electrolysis or just rust removal on the fuel tanks here, because they're both in the exact same state. So it's really cool how these bikes parallel right now. But yeah, we'll definitely have some continued work going forward on these things. It should be a good time. So anyway, hope you guys liked this video. Let show Seth some support in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. And tune in on the next episode. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one, and hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.